Welcome to Cord Cutting Today for May 9th, 2019. This is the show where I give you a quick look at some of the biggest stories happening in the world of cord cutting right now. If you want to learn more about these stories, in the show notes down below I'll put a link to each story. You can read about them for yourself, come up with your own opinions. I'd love to hear from you. If you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up. It really does help us because it lets YouTube know you enjoy what we're doing here. And hopefully we can help you break free from the high cost of cable TV and still watch the shows you enjoy. Well, before we get into the news, real quick on deals, we posted a kind of a roundup of some of the best deals happening in the world of cord cutting right now, including like the Spotify with Premium with Hulu's Basic. This is a limited time deal, ends in about a month, so take advantage of that. Or $15 for the first 3 months of Sling TV and others. Some of the best deals in the show notes down below. I'll put a link to the top 5. And also, don't forget to check out cordcuttersnews.com. Click on the Deal tab to find even more cord cutting deals on services, devices, and more. All right, a lot happened yesterday. Disney released their earnings for the first quarter. Roku released their earnings for the first quarter. We learned some about DirecTV Now, so let's dive into it. Epix is coming to DirecTV Now. So Epix and AT&T have struck a deal to bring Epix to AT&T owned services. Later this month, it will come to DirecTV Satellite. And they say at some point in the future, with no date set, it will come to DirecTV Now. So you'll now be able to, if you're a DirecTV subscriber, have Epix through your service there. Of course, you can subscribe to Epix directly through Epix now that they have their own streaming service. But I know how a lot of people like to have it all in a single spot. So if you're a fan of Epix, you want Epix in one spot, good news is you're going to now be able to do that through DirecTV Now at some point in the future. Unfortunately, we do not know when. They have not said. All we know is that it is coming sometime in the future. Sinclair was at the Disney's first quarter earnings call yesterday. Now, we probably go, why is Sinclair there? They're not Disney. Well, Sinclair is buying the Fox regional sports networks that Disney now owns as part of their deal to acquire most of Fox. And as part of that deal, they had to sell their Fox regional sports. Sinclair's buying most of them. And according to Sinclair's CEO, they may bring some of that content to the free streaming service Stir. Now, not all of it. Don't look for everything to be published or to be put there. But they do kind of hint that some games, probably a lot of the studio, maybe some of the highlights and stuff, will be coming to Stir, or at least they're considering it. Now, Sinclair just paid $10 billion for the Fox Regional Sports Network, so I still expect them to try to put a paywall instead of putting it all on their free Stir streaming service that's supported by ads. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a game of the week, maybe we get an NBA game of the week, or maybe we get a Major League Baseball game of the week, very similar to what we've seen on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and stuff with some of these partnerships in the future. Maybe a lot of that lower end content. There's a lot of college sports up here on Fox Regional Sports Networks. Maybe some of that college sports will come to a streaming service for free. We'll have to wait and see. Sinclair paid a lot of money. They're going to try to get that money back. But Sinclair has also been very cord cutting friendly. They've been bringing a lot of their content to cord cutters, very forward thinking in a lot of this, so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them do this. Now, Sinclair does not have control over them yet, from my understanding. It still needs some approvals. Shouldn't be an issue. I'd be very surprised if there's any issues here, but it is nice to hear them talking about, hey, we want to take some stuff that traditionally was behind a paywall, maybe not all of it, but put some of it out there for free with ads, because that's where a lot of content's going. A lot of content is going in the direction of free with ads to help support it all there. My question to you is, what would you like to realistically see here? With Sinclair buying most of the Fox sports networks, the regional ones, I wouldn't be surprised also to see Stadium, which is Sinclair's one. They're joint owned, but I think they have a majority control of Stadium. Sports service that's free over there, free online and on many streaming services. They seem to be going after ESPN and Fox Sports with a 24/7 news and live games coverage on Stadium. Won't be surprised to see a lot of this content move there. And Stadium does have content on Stir, so maybe that's how that path to Stir gets there. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Sinclair get a little bit more creative. At minimum, I would expect to see a lot of talent, maybe a lot of the hosts that Fox Regional Sports Networks has. They have a lot of good content, a lot of good studio programs and more available there. So maybe we see a lot of that move in over to Stadium and Stir and these other free ones. What would you like to see? Realistically, what do you think would really happen now that Sinclair is going to own most of the Fox regional sports networks. What do you think is going to happen there? Leave me a comment. I'll love to hear from you. Next story of the day. At the Disney call, we also heard from Disney that they have actually been in talks with Comcast. Now, this was to buy Comcast share of Hulu. Now, this was reported a few weeks ago with credible sources. Now, Disney's confirmed that, yes, they have had talks. Now, having talks does not mean a deal is in place, doesn't mean deals will happen. A lot of businesses have talks that don't go anywhere. We see that all the time. Talks happen, and then nothing comes from it. Because both sides may be interested, but may not be interested in the same kind of terms and deals that would make a deal like this happen. So keep a close eye on this, because if Disney gets full control of Hulu, that allows them a lot more content. Now, one of the things Disney said is if they do this deal, they want to ensure that Comcast and NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast, content would remain on Hulu. They want to keep the content, get full ownership. Comcast CEO has basically said just a couple weeks ago that Hulu is very important to us, that we have no interest in just dumping Hulu. We want to maintain our ownership of Hulu going, or at least for now, because it's important to them. Now, is Comcast going to be willing to say, hey, yeah, Hulu, you can have access to our content, and we're willing to give up ownership of it? Now, Comcast doesn't need money. They spent a lot of money in buying Sky in Europe. Would that maybe the lure of Comcast, or Comcast getting money from Disney, who has a lot of money right now, be something that they're willing to do? Maybe sell out now, keep their content there. Of course, they would still earn revenue from their content being played and more. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I do think it's very likely that this could happen. It's better than a 50-50 shot, I would say. But I don't think this is a done deal. I think this is far from a guarantee that Comcast will sell to Hulu. My question is, do you want Comcast to sell? Are you concerned about Comcast selling to Disney all their Hulu share? Leave me a comment, let me know. If they do this, why? Why would you want Disney to do this? Some of the benefits could be maybe this would give Disney more control to do some stuff like the bundles they've talked about. They've talked about bundling Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and Hulu. So you get Hulu On Demand, Hulu Live TV, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus all in a single bundle. Maybe save a little bit of money that way. If Disney owns all of Hulu, they may be able to do stuff like that more easily. So leave me a comment, let me know, what would you like to see Disney do with Hulu if they own 100% of it? Would you like to see Disney not get 100%? Would you like to see Comcast hold on and maintain ownership of their share? Leave us a comment, let us know. All right, next up, Roku had their earnings call, and not a ton of news came from the earnings call, but there were some very interesting tidbits. Number one is now the fact that 1 in 3 smart TVs sold in the United States is now a Roku TV. This does mean that Roku is now the #1 smart TV OS sold in the United States. Much like Android with all the different manufacturers, Roku is saying, hey, pretty much anybody can use our OS if they want to make a TV. So you have all these different manufacturers making Roku OS TVs like the one behind me, and now that makes them the #1 TV OS in the United States. You know, Apple likes to talk a lot about how they are the #1 phone, but when you look at the big picture of all the different versions of Android, Android has a much larger market share. But it's when you look at the, when you compare Apple directly to Samsung, or Apple to LG, or Apple to all these other Android manufacturers, yeah, Apple's bigger. But when you add in all the manufacturers, you can see how Android is bigger. Same situation here with TVs. Yeah, you can make arguments that, well, per brand, maybe another brand is selling more TVs than maybe the Roku brands. But when you look specifically at the OS, Roku is dominating, with 1 in 3 TVs sold being a Roku TV. That's pretty good news. You may be saying, why does Roku want that? What are they getting? They're not selling the TV. Well, in the earnings, it showed that Roku had a vast majority of the revenue come from ads and subscriptions. When you subscribe to something through a Roku, Roku gets cut. When you see these ads, like this one right here, Roku's getting a cut of that. Having a Roku in front of more people means that they get a bigger chunk of those ads. More likely you'll subscribe. A lot of times when you're streaming on services like Pluto and more, those ads you're seeing served to come from Roku. They have a huge, huge ad department, which sells all this. So more people streaming on Roku's means more ad revenue. And it was up like 79% year over year. So 78, 79, something about there, compared to where ad and subscription revenue was. Player revenue, even though they added 2 million new accounts, not devices, but new buyers had never owned a Roku before who had to create an account, 2 million of them in 3 months, only 18% jump in player revenue. Roku was very upfront that, hey, we're really dominant sub $50 market. We're really focused on getting our devices in many people's hands, including through the TV markets, to get their ad revenue up. And to play off the ad revenue up going, they announced that they now have 10,000 free movies and TV episodes on the Roku channel. So the Roku channel not only is expanded into paid subscriptions, which goes back to that getting a cut of that revenue, not only has live streams now, but also has over 10,000 on-demand movies and TV episodes for free through the Roku channel. So you can clearly see Roku's strategy here. A lot of people have talked about, oh, how can Roku make it? Well, they seem to be doing pretty well. If they continue this trend, over half of their revenue, or however half the revenue now is ads. But at this trend, ads and subscriptions will be making twice as much as revenue from players in the near future. So keep a very close eye on this. My question to you is, did you buy Roku? Are you one of those 2 million new accounts that were created? Remember, an account can represent 20, 30 devices. So that doesn't necessarily line up to the number of people. I think in total they had like about 29 million total accounts out there. So Roku is seemingly doing well. They talked a lot about international growth, how they wanted to grow worldwide. You know, Apple and others have a much bigger footprint in some areas than Roku does. They have, for instance, Roku TVs are not very widely available outside the United States. They are in Canada and Mexico now, but they definitely talked about how do we get Roku TVs and Roku players into other countries to grow that selling point outside the United States where they've traditionally dominated, but maybe other players have dominated other markets in other countries. So it'll be very interesting. So are you a Roku owner? Were you part of the new growth? Why do you like Roku? Why don't you like Roku? I'd love to hear from you. Have you tried the Roku channel? What do you think of their content they're offering with that 10,000 movies and TV episodes out there? So leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget, later today I'll be posting our weekly Cord Cutting This Week podcast with Jess. We'll have the audio and the video posted here on YouTube if you want to download the audio. We're also available on iTunes through the podcast there, the Apple Podcasts, now. I think they're called that. And we're rolling out to more podcast platforms. If you have a podcast service you want us to add the podcast to, leave me a comment. But we also will include an RSS link so you can manually add it to your favorite podcast player out there. All right, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic day. I will see you back here tomorrow and later today for the podcast. So be safe, stay dry. Hopefully these storms haven't hit you, and we'll see you tomorrow.